Welcome to the Unshakable Foundation meeting of Cocaine Anonymous. This is a main share meeting, and today it's with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome Leslie S., who's come to share on the topic of From Fear to Faith for up to 40 minutes, after which we will open up for the Q&A portion of the meeting. Leslie, it's all yours. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Hello, everybody over there on the other side of the pond. Thank you, Young, for reaching out again. I love you dearly. My name is Leslie Strange. I'm a recovering alcoholic. My sobriety date is November 2nd, 1988. I have 36 years. It's so funny when I'm getting ready to turn another year older, I forget. I'm 36 years sober, and I'm happy about that today. Young hit me a couple times and he asked me what was my topic, and it's really limiting for me because there's so much I could talk about with this program. First, my head said, what about God? Yeah, well, no, that's kind of worn out, and some people aren't with that anyway. Then I thought about the steps as a whole, or 6 and 7. So I went through this list in my head. And I just took it back to what am I dealing with on a daily basis, and what will I be dealing with for the rest of my life? And it came up and it said from fear to faith. And I think that that's a topic that we all would agree is a difficult journey. Getting sober, getting off cocaine, getting off pills, getting off weed, oh my God, not the weed, was so kind of seemingly easy for me, I guess, because I was tired. See, I came in one time and I took one white chip. God's grace. Don't know how I did it, so don't ask. But I was 28 years old. I had been doing cocaine for a long time. In fact, my career was about 10 years long. Drugs, alcohol. I was a pill head, did acid, loved acid, did all the things, you know. The only thing I didn't quite get to is shooting heroin or shooting cocaine, but I ingested them in other ways. And so when I came in, I guess I was fully surrendered, I guess. I don't know. But the more I stay here, I guess I am. So the reason why I picked that topic, bottom line, is if you're new, you're terrified. If you're new and you're a retread, you're terrified. Oh, this is not going to work. I tried this again. I'm sorry, look at my hair. I tried this again a couple of years ago. If you're new, you're like, dang, I don't want to do that deadly fourth step. If you're new, man, how am I going to get myself up out of this hole? I don't have a job. I don't have a place to stay. Or if you're new in the program, how is God going to build something from nothing? You guys talk a lot about God, and some of you guys just spew God out like it's like good morning, and some of us aren't there. Terrified. I like to use the word terrified because that's the ultimate form of fear. Terrified. I'm terrified. But the funny thing about this fellowship, it kind of eases the fear. Just a little bit. Like in the 12 and 12, they talked about there's the belligerent one, the one who's in belligerent denial. Young, they don't want to fight. Anybody got any, don't put the hands up, your sponsees might on here. But if you got a sponsee that bucks back, I call it bucking back, pushing back. I give you a suggestion, you push back. I give you a clear-cut direction, either according to the book or according to my experience or according to what my sponsor's experience is, and that person pushes back. Old, new, or in between. But the thing about it is they turn around and call you again with the same scenario or even worse, asking for help again. The beauty about this program of Cocaine Anonymous, we'll give it to you again and again and again. I know I will. And I usually pray before I give them suggestions. I said, listen, baby, you can either get with this or you can get with that. That used to be a song in LA in a while back. Hi, Bill. You can get with this, the way you're doing it, or you can try this way. And I'm not guaranteed that my way will work. And I'm not guarantee you that it'll all be unicorns and sprinkles and stuff. But it may be better than what you're doing. I think there are steps to get out of fear. Let me give you some examples. I'm going to share some examples. I'm not quoting the book a lot. I might throw some things in there for you. I'll just tell you what I did. I've moved through sobriety. In fact, I've moved through life terrified most of my life. I had a mother who was very strong, worded, lot of bass behind her voice. Like, when she said something, she stood on it. She wasn't playing. She was a single mother, 2 kids, Southern California, worked really hard. Wasn't an alcoholic, wasn't an addict. And I remember my mother driving home at night. I'm a teenager, not into the disease yet, maybe smoked a little pot, and I'd hear her car coming to the driveway. You ever have someone, a mom, a dad, or someone that when you know that they're on their way, a sudden terror would start from my feet up. And I'd get this terrified, Rachel, how you doing? I would get this terrified feeling, this numbness would come over me. Now see, I got to be maybe 26 years sober when I found out from a therapist that's considered anxiety. I didn't know. I just knew I felt some kind of disturbance in my body. And so when she would come in the house, we had to check to see what mood she was in before we said hi or, we were kids. We didn't know what to do. And living in that, now we use the word trauma a lot. For me, I just use terrified. Living in that, not knowing a spouse, not knowing how they're going to come home, bad news in the mail. I remember a guy that passed on, he used to say he had a fear of mail. I love that because I can't stand opening up mail, especially if it looks like it's got a red notice or a pink slip in it. I cannot stand opening mail. We don't get so much mail now, but I can't stand opening email either. And he talked about that fear of mail and how he'd have to go out there and open up the mail and look at it anyway. And so I felt like that too. But when I was living with my mom, I remember being terrified as a kid how she gonna come out. Sometimes she'd come in like a tornado. Sometimes she'd come in high with a smile, and then we'd be relieved. I became her in sobriety. You would think, okay, she worked the steps, she's got sponsees, she's talking all over the place. I had 2 boys, 2 different husbands in sobriety. And I remember hearing myself and seeing myself being her. You think with all this work that I've done, I wouldn't be that. Fear don't care. Fear don't care. You could quote the book back 164 and back. Fear don't care. Something that they say in a book that resentment is our number 1 offender. It kills more alcoholics than anything else. But if you really step back, I'll talk about me. When I stepped back, and I was almost like 30 years sober when I stepped back and looked at that, and I said, wait a minute, fear is the corroding thread, like they said. I said I wasn't going to quote the book, and I quote the book. Fear was the corroding thread. It ruins our lives. It's sown through our lives. Then I started looking at all the work I've done on the inventory, fear inventory, the sex inventory, my defects of character, seeing those, my assets as well, my shortcomings, then getting the 8th step and got to do a 9th. Now, in each thing that I mentioned, I remember being terrified at each point in the work. Terrified. In fact, when I was new, and I'll get back to the boys, when I was new, I looked and I would cherry pick which steps made sense and which ones I was looking forward to doing. I didn't know it was in order for a reason. I just thought, okay, I can do that one. Okay, that. And I cherry picked. Sitting in the CA meet, 28 years old, 80 pounds. I had the nerve to pick and choose what steps I was going to do. I had no clue. And I said, well, I can't do, I could do 3. So let's just say I made a decision. I didn't know I was really doing that. But when they talked about writing this list, and they talked about writing about who I was mad at, or who I'd been hurt or threatened by, and then they started talking about the columnar stuff. Then they told me when you're angry, Leslie, it is fear inverted. I said, well, what does that mean? They said, when you're angry, if you associate it with fear, it's usually about what you're going to lose, what you're going to get, what somebody's going to think about you, what you're going to think about yourself. I mean, a plethora of things. And I said, oh, okay. Then you tell me with my security, my personal relationships, my sex relationships, self-esteem, all of those are fear-based effects. Stay with me. So in other words, if my mother, because she treats me so bad and she yells at me, and it affected my self-esteem. You only yell at people you hate. And I'm afraid my mother didn't like me. I'm afraid my mother didn't approve. That fear stifled me when I went into the world to try to look for a job. So it might have affected my money. And that fear is the chain that links all of it together. So now I've got this resentment. And then I turn around and I've got these things that are affected by it. Then you tell me in the 4th column, what did it affect? Or what part did I play? And fear's in there again. Now I'm putting this together like this mechanically so you can see what I saw, or maybe you can identify. And then you tell me to write a fear inventory that may not have any resentments tied into it. Then you turn back around and talk about my behavior in intimate relationships. Usually when I cause jealousy, suspicion, and bitterness, it's because I'm afraid that Bill Swan is not doing what I want him to do. He's my boyfriend, but I want to manipulate him and get him. Ralph's on here, so don't say nothing, Bill. I want to get him to act like I want him to act. So if you don't act a certain way, Katie, I'm going to manipulate it. I'm going to cause dissension. I'm going to cause a fight so that we can, split up for a minute. You can come begging back. All these things. And I said, I'm terrified. When I had my 2 boys, single parent, when you're walking through things, you don't realize you're walking through fear sometimes. I had to walk through divorcing both their dads, being a single mom, putting them in a house that was stable. When you're in the midst of doing, you don't see the fear you're overcoming. But fear emotes freeze, fight, or run. Either you're going to be frozen and paralyzed, so you don't do anything like I have. When it's time to go look for a job, and I feel I've gotten turned down a few times. My oldest son is there right now. I got turned down a few times. Now I lose the energy to go look because my head, where my disease centers, tells me that I'm not going to get this job. Why bother? Then if I don't go get this job, this is me. Pandemic. Don't have no money. Don't know where money's going to come from. Got laid off or furloughed from my job. What am I going to do? I mean, what's more frightening is when you pray to this God that you've come to understand or you really don't understand and you're new, older, in between and you're praying and you're doing all the checkoff marks. I'm doing the writing. I'm keeping in touch with my sponsor. I'm like Young. I've got my meeting going on. I'm like Leslie. I'm showing up every day sponsored. I'm like Ralph. I'm at the Big Book, Never Too Early Big Book Workshop. I'm doing all the things. All the things that are supposed to stabilize me. But to feel like those things aren't working because I'm still scared. And if you're anything like me, I'm scared, Bobby. I'm scared that if I don't do something, this will happen. But if I do something, nothing will happen. So I'm stuck. I call my sponsor. I go to 1,000 meetings. Nothing gets rid of the fear. What do I do then? What I've done in the past? I still call my sponsor. I have sat with my sponsor, Betty T, on the phone, so terrified, so afraid financially and emotionally, that she would let me sit on the phone and cry. I'm all the way in Atlanta by then. I'm 20-something years sober. The boy done left me that I moved to Atlanta with, and I called Betty. And when someone's in that deep of despair, depression, and fear, sometimes there's no words. See, I'm a microwave girl. I want to put it on 1 minute, ding, everything okay. But wisdom doesn't come like that. But what the fellowship does is you reassure me that this moment will pass. The simplest phrases. You're going to, what can I do for you? What do you need from me? Where do you go? What do you need to eat? You got groceries? What do you need from me? Hearing words from that. And more importantly, when I'm afraid, hearing words from myself saying, I don't know what to do. Vicky, I don't know what to do. I'm terrified. Bad prognosis from a doctor. Yours or your mother's. I remember when my mother started losing it slightly because she had been sick for a long time. And I remember going over to her house because, she owned a house in L.A. and visiting her and noticing the shift in her thinking and the way she kept house and noticing that unopened mail was stacked up on her other side of the bed and noticing that she would be in the bed with all the drapes closed all day. She had lupus and she had all kind of physical issues and she'd have medicine that she knocked the bottles over. I just started noticing this woman, this strong woman that used to terrify us, turning into a little kid, and I knew something was wrong with her. Immediately, fear came in, and fear said, she ain't gonna make it. My mother lived 12 years past that. But every day I had fear. What I'd like to say to you and offer for your consideration is I walk with the fear until it becomes faith. I'm going to say that again. I walk afraid until it becomes faith. Because once, like the third step prayer says, once I walk through the fear till it becomes faith, then I can turn around and tell Vicky. I can turn around and tell Ella. I can turn around and tell Kasim. Oh, you didn't get a job? You know what my sponsor said about jobs? She said, jobs have not left the planet, nor has money. I fold up, and this is just a talk. I'm not trying to be structured. I fold in half like a cheap lawn chair when my money's funny. I can't get off the bed. I can't get off the couch when I don't see no way out. Where I'm going to get this house note money. I've never had a bankruptcy. I've never had any of that. I've never lost anything. Oh my God, what's going to happen to me? They cut off this check or this isn't happening. And I've gone through my pension and what am I going to do? Oh my God. When I'm thinking like that, it's because something is missing in my contact with God. So you would say, well, since you know all this and you've been around 36 years, Leslie, why do you do that? Because the book told me that I suffer from an agnostic temperament. My sponsor used to tell me things like, you better get on your agnostic knees and ask God's forgiveness and ask him for guidance on what you should do. Because your way's not working. She used to say things to me is like, do you trust the God that you've chosen? Do you trust the people in the fellowship? And now I've added, do you trust me? When I get those sponsees that's pushed back, do you trust me? If you don't trust me, we need to cut it right here, sister, because I ain't good for you. Do you trust? And I give that when women come to me and they want to get rid of their sponsor because I look like I'm new and fresh and fuzzy and whatever. I'm like, well, do you trust her? Why'd you pick her in the first place? See, the alcoholic addict in me, I suffer from delusions and illusions, and I can't differentiate what's real and what's not without a hit. I haven't even taken a hit, and I'm already acting unsober. I have 2 boys. The oldest one went to the Army, came out, had a mental condition, broke down, terrified. I'm all the way in Atlanta by this time. I'm double digits in. He's not one of us. We had a mental break. He suffers from depression. They put him on a 72-hour hold in Atlanta's VA. And I got to see him when he broke into his lowest point. I got to see the dark circles. I got to see the red eyes. I got to see the pupils and the irises of his eyes that wasn't focusing. I got to see his hair matted to his head. I got to see him way underweight and his shoulders just dropped. I got to see all of that. I'm sober. What part of the game is this? I'm supposed to stand courageous. Didn't they say, give me the courage to change the things? I'm supposed to walk through there with, yeah, God is on my side. God got me. God's always got me. Yeah. Well, you know what? It's okay until it's my turn. There was nothing I could do but show up. There was nothing I could do. There was nothing to write about. I couldn't even pray. When you're that afraid that you're so scared that you can't even bust out a prayer, I started doing things. I'm going to give you a few tools, a few nuggets, and you can use them if you want to as a suggestion. But I started doing things like, would you please say one for me? Or I'd be in a meeting, you guys be standing around saying the Lord's Prayer. You say the Serenity Prayer. I don't even say nothing. I let y'all's voice sing for me. I let your voice sing for me. Fear. The worst fear ever. Oh my God, some of y'all, if my mother dies, my mother died, I got the phone call on Mother's Day. My brother and I were on the phone. He lived in Milwaukee. I lived in Atlanta. My mother was in LA in a board and care. They called him. He came back on the phone babbling, can't tell. These are some of the things we said that we would never be able. I don't know what I'll do if something happened to my mom or my kids or all that. But we do these things in spite of, especially if you stay centered with your hand connected to somebody in these rooms. I can't handle that level of trauma and fear and hurt and pain and terrified. I can't handle it. I don't have the emotional bandwidth. I don't care how many times I've read that book. I don't care how many times I've gone through the traditions. I don't care how many times I've written. I mean, those help. Trust me. But it has nothing to do with my emotional imbalance. See, some of you, and I'm not here to make you feel afraid, but I've had sponsors who wanted to write their way, W-R-I-T-E, write their fear away, W-R-I-T-E. They wanted to get a pen and paper, and if I put it on paper, like it's magically delicious, and I write down all my fears, because it says on so-and-so, and our fears immediately leave. Well, life ain't like that. How do I stay sober, Abby, when I get the worst news on the planet? We've had people in the fellowship had to turn themselves in. Oh my God, are you kidding? Me in a jail suit? If I can't have my little earrings and baubles on, I'm not going to work. We've seen people lose houses, lose family, lose babies, go through a divorce. And they still stay, Daz. How did you stay in spite of all that? Well, when you've been to hell and you don't want to go back there, nothing beats being in here. If you've been to hell where they had to wake your ass up with those 2 paddles, nothing beats in here. If you've been to hell and slept under a tree or in a backyard alley, nothing beats here. If you've been to hell spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally, you will come to find that people who don't know you are really concerned about your welfare. And if you admit that you are terrified instead of all this bravado and ego-driven stuff, people will reach out, if nothing else but to sit with you. Maybe Rachel, let's go to coffee. See, I'm emphasizing the unity part of this program where you stay close. I know a lot of ladies, I got a couple of them that they way up in their 30s and they don't hang with anybody. And I'm like, well, who are your people? It's not sexy being in a room of Cocaine Anonymous by yourself. In fact, when I see that you by yourself, that tells me a lot about you. Are you that afraid of us? Are you that afraid? You know, the book talks about substitution. Substitution. How much time do I have? I can't see you. Let me pull it. They talk about substituting. If you don't have a God, then you can also substitute the fellowship. substitute your sponsor temporarily. They invited me to do that because even though I went to Catholic school and even though I would claim up and down, I would fight you. If you said I didn't have a God, I have a God, I have a God. I didn't trust him. I didn't believe him. So fear is nothing more than me not being able to be the captain of my ship and I don't know where it's going to end. See, I always want to know how to, anybody ever get a real good book and it gets so good and you can't help it and you go to the end of the book to read it? What usually happens? For me, when I used to read the end of the book, I don't want to read the book no more. But my life is a book that is still being written. My life is a book that hasn't ended yet. Fear is the food that feeds all my resentments. Fear is the food that feeds all the things that are affected when I have a resentment. Fear is the food to make me have a part in all my resentments. Fear is the food that feeds my dis-ease. Fear is the food that feeds my shortcomings and my defects. Well, why did you say that? Because usually if I act out on jealousy, envy, Shannon, if I do those kind of things, it's basically because of some fear. I'm thinking Shannon's cuter than me, so I'm jealous of her. Because if Shannon gets more attention than me and nobody pays me no attention when Shannon's there, then nobody will like me. Now I'm afraid that you guys won't like me because Shannon's cute. I know I'm being silly, but fear of financial insecurity. Why? Leslie was so terrified during the pandemic that I wasn't going to be able to pay my house note. Why? Because if I can't pay my house note, I'm going to be homeless. Let me tell you how silly fear is. I'm going to take it all the way through. I'm going to pay my house note. I won't be able to pay my house note. Then I'm going to be taken out of my home. I'm going to lose my house. And then what? And if I lose my house, I'm going to be homeless. And then what? And if I'm homeless, then I'm going to end up living somewhere where homeless people live, like under a freeway, under a highway, in a cardboard box on Skid Row in Los Angeles. I don't know. And then what? Okay, so you end up in a cardboard box. I said, well, if I end up in a cardboard box, there's a lot of drugs around and I'll end up maybe getting high or getting loaded. And then what? Well, if I get high and get loaded, I might be raped and pillaged and thrown about. And then what? Then I'll be so depressed that I could just die. And then what? If you listen to your fears and you do then what? I just started doing this a couple years ago, making people tell me, and then what? What about you? Those of you who have children in the rooms and you want to see how, you're so scared for one of your children because he looks like he has the disease symptoms. I have one like that. I'm kind of scared for him, but I don't say nothing. Run that, then what, all the way through. I'm scared my son Miles will die. Why? Because he drinks a whole lot and he goes out partying a lot. Okay, and if he does drink, and then what? Well, if he parties a whole lot, then he may become one of us. Okay, and if he becomes one of us, then what? Well, he could overdose, or they got fentanyl and everything nowadays, and okay, and then what? And if I took it all the way through, the bottom line is one of two things can happen. He can turn this way and get help because he has the gift of free will, or he can continue on down the road. And then what? And then what? So the bottom line, all my fears are fantasy. Let me tell you another thing. Besides taking that then what trail. Somebody right now, it is 32 minutes after the hour. Wherever you are, it's 32 minutes after the hour. When I'm afraid, it's because I'm future tripping. I'm over there. I'm in somebody else's business. And you know what it's like being in somebody else's business. Get you some business and tend to it. So usually, if I look at 32, oh no, it's 33 minutes after the hour. What happened to 32 minutes after the hour? It's gone. It doesn't exist. What happened to 34 minutes after the hour? It ain't here yet. Ain't your business. So right now it's 33 minutes after the hour. And what I do is I put my sponsees who are especially fearful or they have these wild conversations in their head, and I tell them, type the time in and type what you're thinking, and I'll respond with what I'm thinking. It turns out to be a little bit of a game to let them see and let me see what they're thinking and how crazy we both are. Why would I do that? God gave me that idea a while back. Start looking at the time, typing it in, send it to somebody and tell them to send it back and they'll type it in. Why? Because usually my fears are based on something that's none of my business. God's business is the future. And if I'm living in the past, I'm resentful. I'm fearful looking in the future. I'm resentful looking in the past. All I got is up, bam, 34 minutes after the hour. What happened to 33? You did it. What's happening in 35? I don't know. Ain't here yet. If I stay focused right in that box of time, just right there, I have a better success of taking care of the business I need to take care of that's in front of me. Like looking at my phone, returning phone calls to sponsees, calling people, checking on people that come to my mind and my spirit. See, when I get out of self and when I'm grateful, I'm not afraid. So if I'm writing a gratitude list, there's no fear in it. You guys write the most beautiful gratitude lists like that are so beautiful. I get a lot sent to me and I read them. I said, God, I wish we could stay in that moment of gratitude all the time because there's no fear in the gratitude list. It's beautiful. You guys are poets. You guys are beautiful authors when you think of the gratitude and the things that I see that I read that come across my phone. But we can stay there because as soon as my mind wants to take me into that place that's not my business, because remember I said in the third step, remember we said in the third step, God, I give myself to you to build with me and do with me as you will. In fact, God, relieve me of the bondage of me. When I'm in my fears, I'm in my ultimate form of self. Relieve me of the bondage of me so I can better hear, see, and do your will. In fact, God, take away all my mess, my difficulties, fancied or real, so that when I have victory over those fears and difficulties and so forth, I can go out and be a message for somebody else, how they too, like Vicky can get over hers. Shannon, you can get over yours. You know, a Young, you can get over yours. And I can be a messenger. I can be a messenger. I can be a messenger. So when I turn my thinking, third step, thinking and my actions over to the care of God, and I remember who's holding my future and the fears that I have are not real until they are, if they become that way. If I settle into 36 minutes into the hour, then I'm supposed to made a decision to turn my thinking and action over to the care of God so that he can care for the big stuff. And I can do my job and stay in my lane and not try to be him. I didn't cause it. I can't cure it, and I damn sure can't control it. And if it falls within those three, that's God's area. I didn't cause it. I can't control it, and I damn sure can't cure it. Whatever it is. And when I lessen the load, the emotional load, and I lessen the load, you know, I'm better. Back to my boys. When my children were younger, I've been an abusive mother. I'm the mom that became the mom. My mom was a cusser, a thrower. She was a good caregiver. She had a love language, I'll take care of you. And I became that. But what happened in the middle of this program, I was so fearful of becoming, and I never understood what my sponsor used to say. If you linger long, die you must. If you continue to fear it, you will become it. If I continue to fear it, it can't happen because we are power-given children of the Most High. That's what I think. So what do I do when I have those fearful thoughts? I tell somebody, number one, or I ask for suggestions, and prayer and meditation. I'm bringing it in step 11. Prayer and meditation helps with emotional sobriety. If I stay terrified and fear-filled and people-pleasing and lying and justifying and denying and being bitter and fighting back, I'm just a terrified little kid whistling in the dark, telling myself this is not a monster. I've got the boogeyman under my bed and in my closet, and I believe there's one in there, and I'm 65 years old. The book says God is either everything or he is nothing. And if he's everything, then we have to believe that you believe that God's going to get me out this, especially if I stay sober. Because when I get loaded, all bets are off, man. When I get loaded, I'm saying F it. Like my sponsor say, 2 tears in a bucket and F it. You know, I ain't going to say it on here. I already cussed a little bit, just not much. I'm trying to get better. From fear to faith, there's a bridge. And the only way you can get to the faith side is to walk on an invisible bridge, believing that each step is placed under your foot till you get to the other side. When I'm in my worst state of fear, the paralyzing fear, the nervous breakdown, feeling like having fear, so terrified, so mortified, don't want to go out the house, don't eat, lay up in the bed, just don't, today. And it's not mental illness, it's untreated fear, it's untreated alcoholism, it's untreated addiction, it's this disease. My thinking, disease centers here, so why wouldn't it be the one to whip my butt? It kicks my butt. And I come out looking like I've been fighting Mike Tyson, and I'm the only one coming out the house. Ain't nobody else in my house but me. I'm one that's afraid of what you think. I know a lot of you guys are bigger girls and bigger boys than me, but I'm definitely terrified of what you think. I'm terrified of the reputation. Call it ego if you want to, but I'm terrified of the reputation that a fews and twos that don't like me has been able to have such power to spread it all the way over to London. Insane. At one point with my boys, I was so mean. I took my oldest boy one time. Young, I can't even see your timer on there. Okay. My oldest son, I thought I was going to be this fancy mom, right? And I'd had 20 years maybe by then. I had my second son. They're 10 years apart. And I took my oldest son because he lied. I mean, just straight up lied about something at school. So I tried to be the good idea mom. And I was a spanker. But I was a hand hitter. Let me tell you about this. Really ain't going to like me after this. I don't even like me after this. And one day it was so bad. And he was about 10, and I told him, take his pants down. And I did, went and got, I don't know where I got this from, because that wasn't even done to me. And I got this belt, made him lay across his bed, and I struck him with the belt across the buttocks. I could say buttocks because you guys are British. Anyway, across the ass, and I struck him across the butt. I'm not even going to lie and say it was a couple times. I don't even know what it was. I don't know if I didn't black out and lose my mind. And he's a dark-complected young man. He went back to school. It wasn't that there were whelps or anything, but he told the teacher how he got a whooping. Not that he got one. How? Now, mind you, I'm not one of those girls that came into the rooms with kids. I didn't come into the rooms and have kids till I was sober. I had one at 29 and one at 39. So next thing you know, one weekend, I get a buzz from downstairs because I lived in a condo. And somebody from social services was downstairs. And it was a lady that came up. And she said, I got a report. No warning, no nothing. She said, I got a report. This is sober, double digits. I'm speaking, sponsoring, doing all the things, right? That'll make you fearless, trust me. She came in the house. It was the most embarrassing, demoralizing. She went in the refrigerator. They went under the cabinets. They went in the rooms. They went in the bathrooms, made sure the kids had food, which I understood. I was never even raised like that. I did not know that they went in like that. They went in so deep. She even had me take the youngest diaper off so she could check him for hits and marks. That close to have my kids taken. Why? Because there are phases in my development that I hadn't fully emotionally developed yet. I'm still learning. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm 20 years or 15 or 16 years in. I think I know how to parent, and then I do this, and then something hit me and said, you're going to end up getting loaded again. See, getting loaded wasn't really something I was thinking about. I thought I was being a good disciplinarian. I'm going to teach him a lesson, and that's not how we do this. When I'm afraid, I've been so afraid when I'm afraid for somebody. Now, that lesson taught me to seek advice on how to raise children. The more information I got, the more understanding I got, the more suggestions that I took, and I wasn't belligerently opposed to it. And now you can't tell me, no, I didn't do none of that. I was sweetly reasonable. They dismissed the case, thank God. I never had to go to court and everything was okay. But I almost lost my children stone cold sober based on fear. Fear that if I don't spank him, he's going to get worse. And then what? And then if he gets worse, he might end up as a black child in Los Angeles, in jail, or in a gang. And then what? Then he might be shot or hurt or killed. And then what? See, there's that fear. There's that fear. There's that fear. So I think I'm going to beat him into reasonable, sweetly reasonableness. No. I had a sponsor that says, my mother wasn't a hugger, kisser, or lover. She wasn't that kind of mom. She took care of you, took you to the best restaurants, took us to the best places, but she wasn't one of those. But today, now that my sons are old, I hug them. From then on, I began hugging them. And I still kiss my kids directly on the mouth. Now, some of y'all won't agree, but they're boys. Hey, today, I get phone calls where the fear became faith is now. I know when they're going through something because I changed or God helped me change my behavior, change my attitude, change my thinking, change how I am because I had that overwhelming spiritual experience and a spiritual expansion on how to be a good mother and how to talk to them because they're humans too. And not to create any dope fiends, not to create any fear in them, to be the safe spot. My house is the landing place. Thank you. I'll wrap it up with this. My house is where they can come and feel safe and secure. AA, CA, all them A's, that's your house. This is where you can come and be secure and feel good. Yeah, some of us have failed you miserably, but this should be the place where you should come and feel secure, not have to hunker down in the back and hide. You did that in a dope spot. Why are you in here hiding? Get your ass in here and tell somebody you scared. Because they got a story that's scarier than yours. And they can tell you how to maneuver through it. I'm gonna say this last thing. I've been with girls that are so scared. I say, if you need me, I don't care what time it is. I've had girls that have called me back to back 5-6 times a day because they're terrified. And I'll tell them something like, even though I'm out of town speaking in Phoenix or somewhere else, I got my phone in my hand. I'm looking for your call. And then when they and what that makes me feel like is I can walk them through the fear until it becomes faith. Faith is something acquired through wisdom, experience, and just believing somebody believes in you. If you've never had anybody believe in you and say they love you and you can get through this, we're standing here with spiritual pom-poms cheering your ass across the finish line. The finish line is 3 days after you're dead because we want to make sure your ass is not lying. So I hope you go from fear, whatever's scaring you, to faith. And right now, it is 47 minutes after the hour, and it's time for me to shut it down. Thank you for listening.
For that, you had me hooked on every single word. Fear to faith, wonderful. So my question is, when I'm doing my inventory, I like of an evening, like my step 11 or whatever, I identify fears that I don't realize that I'm in through the day sometimes. And it's when I'm looking back, like, oh mate, you're a bit like, whether it be judgment or negative thinking or anything like that, you know, agnosticism, lack of reliance. Do you have any tips or tricks to maybe help me identify it in the day? Because what it does is something that could be simply removed if I identified it and just, went to God and then spoke about it. Sometimes goes on a lot longer because I don't quite identify it till later on in the day. So do you have any tips to maybe identify the fear sooner? And thank you again, Leslie. It was wonderful.
Hi, Michael. That's a precious question. I like that. Sometimes I don't know. if I'm in the middle of the day and say I snap on somebody cutting me off, or I snap at work or something, and I'm just so full of anger about it, I don't necessarily say, oh, stop. You're on page, during the day, page 84 to 86, as I retire, that's why we have a 10-step nightly review, or some people call 11. Don't get into that with me, because I'm not fighting with you what page. And some people do it. That's why we get to review. And as you practice long enough, you'll be able to identify and you'll be able to apply restraint of pen and tongue. And then sometimes you're able to catch yourself and says, oh, I'm acting out on fear. And sometimes you won't. So there's no cookie cutter answer. It depends on the person and where you are at the time. I'm 36 and I can lose my damn mind in 1 minute and cuss to the high heels, and then go back later on and have to make amends. Or go back later on and ask God to forgive me because I don't know who that old man is. I cut him back off because he cut me off. So, but the good news is to be able to recognize it. When and how, I don't care. But if it comes up, that means you need to look at it. I'm proud of you for asking that question, though. Maybe somebody has a better answer than I, but it's as you stay around here after a while, it'll become automatic, and I'll be able to shut myself down, and I'll be able to go, don't say that, Leslie. You saying that because you're scared. So, that's not a good idea. Or I might have to look in the rearview mirror, you know what I'm saying? And say, oh, that was a bad act the other day. And hopefully I've gotten enough of a God consciousness, I can go back and fix it. So, no solid answer, but that's a good question, baby. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Michael, for your question. Next up, we've got Ark House. Come on in.
Hi, Leslie. Thank you for having us. I'm Carl. I'm an alcoholic. So for the majority, for the whole of my life, I've just faked courage and I've faked bravery. And now I find myself sat in a treatment centre, a 35-year-old, just riddled in fears what I've never had to deal with sober and clear-minded. And yeah, just like an answer to that, if you could help me, please.
I'm sorry. What was the last part he said? Because he went real British on me. I don't know what he said.
Yes, so basically, I've spent my full life rather hiding behind a drink or a drug. And I find myself today sat 4 months into recovery, you know, with a clearer mind and riddled in fear what I didn't know existed, fear of pretty much everything in my life today, what I'm now facing with a sober head and a substance-free head. So just how would you go about facing these?
Face them. Walk, doing just what you're doing. Sitting in that recovery house, saying, I'm going to do it this way this time. I'm going to follow some instructions because I don't know how to live. Asking questions of everybody. Get with some people that got more time than you. Don't be the smartest person in your circle. To get rid, see, you're terrified of living, but the beauty in this program is that you get to recreate a new life. This older lady that used to be here, her name was Marcy, she said, we get to have 2 lifestyles and 2 lifetimes. You probably like a cat with 9 tails. This ain't your second go round. But I'm just saying, I'm just guessing, you know. But who cares? You're 35. You're still a baby. You still breast milk. No, I won't say breast milk. You still on, shut up. Never mind. That went left. Shut up, y'all. You still on Infamil formula, spiritual formula. You like an infant. You don't know jack yet. You know some stuff, but you couldn't apply it. So what do you do with your fears? Admit them, just like you sat here and told a whole 70-some people that you scared. You're a beautiful, scared little boy, and it's okay. Because God's going to grow you a pair. But why has everything got to be? Anyway, I hope you got me. I love you. Congratulations, baby.
Beautiful. Thank you, Leslie, for your answer, and thank you, Ark, for coming in. Next up, we've got Shannon with your question.
Hi, Shannon, alcoholic
Oh,
addict.
she would.
Thank you. Thank you, Leslie, for your share. That was amazing. I really enjoyed listening to that. My question is, you mentioned how, you have to walk the bridge from fear to faith. And one way you can do that is through, meditation and prayer. My question is, what do you do in the waiting when you know that things aren't working? You mentioned when you know it's not working, your way isn't working, and you're waiting. You're waiting for the help. What do you do? How do you cope with the waiting?
It's in the book.
Is it?
While I'm waiting, we'll talk. It's in the book. I gotta find it. But it's in the book. They say something like, while we're waiting for the miracle to happen. It's not saying it like that, so don't you quoting big book. But when you're in the meantime, you're still doing something. You're not getting loaded and you're being still. See, we are people that suffer from right nowism. I need my shit right now. I need this right now. God, what are you doing? You see how ragged he is. You see how bad I'm feeling. You see, and I'm prayed. I'm doing all this stuff. That just because I did it once, ain't no rub the lamp and make 3 wishes. Courage and endurance is based on sitting down and being still when I want to move. The best way in the meanwhile, don't tell nobody this, be of damn service and get up out that head. You done put the prayer out there, leave that shit out in the universe, and go find somebody and mess with their world and try to be a genius on them. Service. Service is like gratitude. You can't be scared while you with service. You can be scared after the meeting when you get in the car and you're going home. But in the meantime, baby, you go work with others. You change trash can liners. You get take a hostage, not a man. Take a woman hostage and say, girl, what you doing? Let me take you to coffee. Coming up. See, I'm a girl that if I lived near you, I would come over your house. Say, girl, what you doing today? Just knock on the door, walk up. Get into service. Even if you ain't got to step 12 yet. Well, I don't give a damn. Go greet. Be the greeter at a meeting. Be the official. Hey, girl. Hey, smiler. You cute. Do something. And wait. The results will come if your own house is in order. And to keep your house in order is to sit back. God, I don't know what you're doing. God, I'm afraid. Do what you do. And be of service. Girl, you don't know what a time will happen and pass. And guess what? Last thing I tell somebody, when we go through let's try this. When we run out of answers, when we're in fear, tell my sponsors who's lost jobs, and I say, okay, at this point, I don't know what the spirit is getting ready to do, but something big is getting ready to happen. And whenever I put that on there, bam, 24, 48 hours it happens. I'll be like, girl, shut up. And they call me screaming on the phone. I'll be like, get out of here. Didn't know. So that's just a few suggestions.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sharon, for your question. Thank you, Leslie, for answering. Next up, we've got Young. Come on in.
Hello, hi everyone. My name's Young, recovered addict. Leslie, thank you so much. Always wonderful to hear you. Great to see you. Always look so glamorous, Leslie. I know Ralph's on here, my question. The story you told at the end about you and your sons. How or did you find it difficult to get honest with your tribe after that? And how did it look afterwards? What guidance did they kind of give you? Thank you. Thank you so much, Leslie.
No problem. No, I didn't. I was so afraid of the consequences. I was glad to tell somebody the outcome. I was so afraid that I was going to go to jail. My children were going to be taken from me. That when grace kicked in, because it was grace that saved me out of that debacle, self-imposed crisis. That's what we do. We go to meetings and say, I got to share what happened to me. And we get used to telling on ourselves. And it's so relieving to say what happened. My sponsor used to say something real profound. She said, keep that disease in your mouth until you come up with a solution. Then you share the whole story. Keep the disease in your mouth. In other words, if you ain't got a epilogue or end of the story or tail with the end, shut up till you get over it. She says, keep your mouth, ask for God glue for your lips. No, I wasn't ashamed or embarrassed. I was okay with it because I was glad and I could see the miracle in it. When they say, what, tea bags only work in hot water? The principles come to full application when your ass is on fire and it's in hot water. God will rescue that ass out that hot drowning moment, and you be like, ooh, I'm so glad I dodged that bullet. Girl, let me tell you. And then you realize who really dodged the bullet. It wasn't you. So I didn't feel anything. Last thing I'm going to say about that, real quick. My sponsor was a psych nurse, and she used to tell me how to make my boys into young men and to have them hug and love. And now they call me and I say, do you want to talk to mom or do you want to talk to spiritual advisor? That's my new language. And they say, I want to talk to spiritual advisor. I want to talk to the sex counselor. I want to talk to the financial advisor. That way I can flip it and they can talk to me about anything. And we pray. And I've given them step assignments to work. But I still love them and hug them and I tell them I love you and I've not put my hands on them since. That's it. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, Erin, for your question. Thanks, Leslie, for answering. Lastly, we've got Rachel this evening. Come on in.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I'm an alcoholic. It's good to see you, Leslie. I was going to ask that one of the things I love when you share and when I've gone to the meeting that you lead with Brenda is that you talk about, have it like sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, like it depends on the person, and that, we can make these, I don't even want to call them mistakes, learning opportunities, growth. And that's, I feel for myself that I can be impulsive. I can do these things and everything. And you shared that you can have these moments too. What have you learned over the years you've been sober? And in the moments where you have these experiences where you maybe go, oh, I did that. That was not great. And now I have to clean that up. How have you found that it's changed over the time that you've been sober, but also how have you found that you then kind of go and, make the amends or go, how do I make this better? And is it making sense? The question I'm asking kind of, yeah, because I find myself in moments sometimes when I'm struggling or just that I move too fast in a situation and I'm trying to, how are you getting better at pausing? That's the shortest way to ask that question.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a few things in there. With time. See, there are two things that can change you that you can't rush. This is a Leslieism, a strangeism. Time and God. I can't rush God and I can't rush time. And good things come with time. I can't rush it. I can get the information, I can study the book, I can do all the things. I can seek through prayer and meditation. I can levitate. I can go to the mosque, pray 5 times. I can do all the things. But what makes me click to change? What, when, and how does the click happen that suddenly my behavior, my attitude, and outlook change? Yes, they've written out a map through the steps, but even once I've done the steps, there are degrees of change. So some things just have to bake. Some things are in the slow cooker. Some things you can flash fry. But some things have to take a lot of time. And it takes your cooperation, God, and time. And you can't rush the God and the time. Sometimes you just gotta sit with your shit. And you gotta sit. And you gotta sit until you hit a bottom so cold in your defects. Just like the bottom that brought you in here, you hit a bottom that rocks your world. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. But you one of those educational ass whoopings that they talk about in the spiritual, where you just you the jaywalker and now you in a stretcher and you in a coma. I mean, you gotta hit that. And sometimes it's just enough. This close to death. That all of a sudden surrender comes in. I can't tell you when that clicks. Restraint of pen, tongue, and sin. Another thing, second part of your question. Before you send something with your smart, manic ass, I know you, Run it past somebody before you hit send. Girl, let me read this to you. How this sound? Girl, don't send that. Don't do it. Well, I feel like calling my ex. Why? Girl, don't do it. He used to beat you up and he was going to jail every other week. Why you? I need to make amends. See, don't do it. Run your bright ideas past somebody. And shut up, shutting up. I don't know where that meant. I saw that on a cartoon. That's it.
Beautiful. Thank you, everyone who asked the question.